Top Boy has now concluded, and it's safe to say that despite being a really good season of the show, it's definitely proved to be a divisive one in the way that it finished. However, this video isn't about the ending. It's about a moment that occurred before the ending, and it was the final time that we saw the two people who we were first introduced to in the show in the Summerhouse series all of those years ago on screen together. While Stefan and Sully's scene was powerful in the park, this was one that was simply perfect, and I thought I'd break down and explain why. Here is why this Top Boy scene is perfect. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The performances. Ashley Walters and Kano were two strong reasons as to why this scene was incredible. The delivery of their roles throughout the entirety of Top Boy has always been top notch, but in this instance, they delivered such strong performances, especially Kano. Sully is an emotionless and numb individual, and I feel we've only ever really seen two moments of emotion from him before. When Jason died in the first Netflix series, and also in this moment where he found out that Dushane did respect him like he always wanted, and then the realization that he had killed Dushane instead of just wounding him and stopping him. Within this scene, Kano delivered one of the most powerful lines in the entirety of Top Boy: "If we're not monsters, we're food, and I could never be food." This truly summed up what Top Boy was about and the kill or be killed mentality that they faced on a daily basis as they were on their rise to the top, and then also the type of life that they had to lead in order to stay on top. We got a single tear that went down Sully's face when he uttered that line, and it showed that deep down, I don't think that he actually wanted to be the monster, but he chose to be the monster because it's the only option that he had. Hence why maybe he was just numb to everything, because he doesn't actually want to be like that. Hearing both Sully and Dushane have it out in this scene, and with Dushane being the most composed he'd been for about 2 episodes because he was actually forced to stop. We heard him talking about how he didn't want to go to prison, and Sully saying that he would have given him the money that he needed to escape if he had have asked, despite the fact that they were done. It showed the state of their relationship towards the end of the season, and how drastically different it was from the very first time that we met them. Dushane always bailed Sully out of trouble when he needed it, whether it be when holding his cousin hostage in the Summerhouse series, or even in the season before the most recent one where Dushane had to get Sully back from being held hostage himself, and essentially saving his life. However, Sully was never able to do the same to Dushane. Instead, he chose to go behind his back and force his way to the top, which essentially kick-started this whole process and stress in Dushane's life, as it meant that he had to rely on the money that he'd previously made, which was now gone. Dushane being in complete shock at what Sully had done to him when seeing how severely wounded he was as well was something that I thought was very sad to witness. I don't think that Dushane ever thought that his brother would do that to him, despite the chaotic behaviour that Sully would sometimes emit, so it truly did mark a moment that I don't think either of them expected to happen, especially also seeing Sully's reaction when he was in shock when Dushane stopped speaking. The performances from both of these actors in this scene were simply amazing. The framing of the scene. One thing that I thought was fantastic about the way that the creators of the show approached the final scene with Sully and Dushane was the fact that they made it take place with a massive divide between them. Sully was on one side of this massive gate and Dushane was on the other side. We saw that Sully fired at Dushane and injured him, ultimately leading him to losing his life. But the decision to not have Sully overlooking Dushane from the very beginning, and only having it right at the end once they'd said everything that they needed to say, was something which was almost poetic. Sully and Dushane have always had a turbulent relationship, despite being brothers and long-term friends. When you go all the way back to the Summerhouse series, even back then, Sully had his erratic behaviour, and Dushane would have to clean up the mess after him. This happened all the way up until this very season, with Sully ultimately screwing Dushane over when it mattered, all because Sully wanted to be seen on equal levels and to have the respect from Dushane. He no longer wanted to be in Dushane's shadow. This massive gate in between them during the final words together is symbolic of the fact that there was always something that was between them within their life, and even in Dushane's final moments, which were caused by the actions of Sully, the divide between them was still present, showing that it was something that was never going to change and had been there throughout their entire friendship. Sully wanted to be more like Dushane and have the respect that he got, and not be second in command, something he felt as though he could never have, which was something which also then made sense as to why Sully killed Jamie, because he saw Jamie rising up the ranks quickly. Another element of this scene that I thought was incredible from a creative perspective and contributed to the success of it was the extremely close-up shots and narrow field of focus that we had on Sully for the most part of it. This really allowed us to almost visually see what was going on inside of his mind and provide the sense of mixed emotions that were going around at a rapid pace, as that's exactly what we saw happen. He went from firing at Dushane, realizing that he'd done something that he didn't necessarily want to do, and then I feel there was an ounce of regret that was present in his eyes as well, as I don't feel as though he ever meant to kill Dushane, only stop him so that he could get the bags. And these real close-up and intimate shots of just Sully's face was something that allowed us to feel the full weight and the effect of it, and see the emotion that was there, something which was far better than if it wasn't executed in that way. The end of the scene. The end of this scene was something which rounded it off so perfectly, and I don't think I would change it in the slightest. As I mentioned, Sully always had a chip on his shoulder about never being equal, but by the end of it, it's almost as if Sully heard what he wanted to hear, and that issue that he had was no longer present. With Sully telling Dushane to get up and not realizing the weight of what he'd done, when he climbed over the fence to get the bags and threw them back over, we saw Sully just look at Dushane. And this was a moment that I was a little confused at first, but then I realized Sully stayed with Dushane until he took his last breath, as he didn't want to leave him to die alone. I believe Sully felt as though it was the least that he could have done considering it was him that pulled the trigger, and I think he also did it because of the fact that they were brothers and there was no longer a divide that was between them post Dushane's death. However, with Sully taking the bags of food, it showed that he was committed to that type of lifestyle, and he was the monster that he previously spoke about earlier, killing his best friend for it. This scene in Top Boy is one of the best in the entirety of the show. It marks the end of the two characters that were first introduced to us together over 10 years ago, and the friendship was something that turned rotten and caused them to eventually turn on one another. Its poignancy in the show is something that it felt like it was always leading towards, and the weight of it was something that was most definitely felt with its inclusion, contributing to an ending for the pair that will definitely be memorable. The delivery of the performances, the writing of it, the pacing, the framing of it, and the way that it concluded are things that definitely contribute to it being perfect. It's definitely a perfect scene, not only in Top Boy, but in television. So, there you have it, why this Top Boy scene is perfect. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Do you think this scene was powerful? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.